Flosstube! Welcome to my channel. I'm Jessie and this is the Magical Anime Stitcher. How is everyone doing? I am recording this on Friday, April 4th. I have taken the day off, as I apparently do when I record these videos. And I'm looking forward to a nice, slightly long weekend, although not really. I mean, it's Friday, so I'm doing stuff in the house. So we have a show tonight. We're going to go see Sutton Foster for those who are Broadway fans, so we're very excited. She's going to be here in town, so we're going to go see her. And so, but it was a great March. It was a good March. We had spring break. It was a staycation for those of you who follow me on Instagram, which is at boba_JessieC. You would have seen all of my daily photos where we basically went to musicals, not musicals, something music almost every single day. We had concerts, rodeos, and Sailor Moon Live, but more on that a little bit later. So that did impact my stitching a little bit, but overall I think we still had a really great month. I worked on 3 projects for a total of 7,145 stitches over the course of 27 days. So even though we didn't I didn't do tons on the days that we were at shows, I did do some, maybe about 50 stitches each day when I took it with me to the shows and things like that. So that's kind of where we are. And I worked on 1 whip and I had 2 new starts. So exciting. It's exciting. So my first new start in going from least stitches to most stitches is that I started Lady Violet Witherbottom. This is by Forbidden Fiber Co. This is part of the Steampunk Sheep line, and I don't know if I ever mentioned this in an earlier video. My unstated goal, but now is my goal for the year, is finish what needs to be finished. And so I'm working on the Steampunk Sheep line, and so I'm working to get finished. Now there's a ton. There's like 500 of them. I'm exaggerating, but there's a lot. And so I don't know how quickly I'm going to finish them. But they're my travel pieces. And so that's basically what I did since I was doing a lot of going to shows and things. I started a new one. I worked on this for a total of 4 days and I put in 307 stitches. Here it is, my start at the bottom of my sheet right there. And this is going to be 2/2 with the called for Forbidden Fiber Co. floss on Love Potion, I believe is the fabric. Rose Petal. Sorry, Rose Petal. Love Potion's a different part. Rose Petal is the fabric also by Forbidden Fiber Co. As you can see, there was some frogging that happened right there. And so I was like, drats. And so I was off by a stitch, which is kind of one of those, like, the thing about doing these as travel pieces is that, as you can see, there's a lot of solid block stitching in here, which is what makes it really, really good. But if you're going to do that, you really need to take a day or two as part of your like standard sit on the couch concentrated stitching to do like the outlines and things correctly, because otherwise you will mess up on those. So in terms of like my plans for this going into April, I don't have big plans for it, but I am going to try to work on putting in some of those outlines so that way when I do travel and take it to places, I already have the outlines in place and I don't have to count, which is really the key, right? Is the key, and not make mistakes counting when you're just sitting in the stands doing something. So that's it. Really cute. Always excited to work on the sheep. Next up is my next start. And so the spring equinox was on the March 20th. Was it the 20th this year? 21st? And so as part of my things to get done, I wanted to finish the season series by the Frosted Pumpkin Stitchery. I've already completed winter and autumn. And so on the spring equinox, I started the Spring Garden Club. So that's where it is. It stitches up pretty fast. I made a couple of mistakes that kind of slowed me down a bit. For a brief, arrogant moment, I thought I was going to be able to finish it in the 8 days I was going to be able to work on it, that wasn't going to happen. So anyways, I'm about 60% done though. So here we are. Again, brand new start. And isn't that adorable? I actually went back and forth on this purple. What do you think? Like on the flower. So everything's called for DMC. 2/1. I'm doing this on 14 count Aida Whimsey by Picture This Plus. This is what I did the original project in Aida, so I'm finishing the whole series in Aida. What do y'all think of that purple? In some light, it's very blendy, right? Like in some light, it's very blendy. But I feel like in the daylight, it's not. And right now it's daylight. And I think it's a little blendy, but I think it's spring tone. So I don't feel like it's bad, but I don't know. Y'all let me know. What do you think? Do you think it's too light? Should I come back in and put in a darker tone of that purple because of the fabric being a little darker? This is the called for fabric, by the way. So, but of course, dye lots things on that lines. But yeah. Well, I didn't tell you. I put in 2,839 stitches in 8 days. There you are. What do y'all think? So, my goals for this going into April is to finish it. I don't see any reason why I can't finish it. I was really jiving with it. And so I think that, there's about 1,700 stitches left in it. I think that's about right. It's like 4,000 stitches or 1,200 stitches. So I feel like that's doable. So that's the goal for April is to get that finished. But the overall goal is to finish it by the summer solstice, which is when I'll start the final piece, which is Summer Beach Party. All right. Last but certainly not least is I Search for an Ancestor. So this is my oldest whip that is not a BAP. Big awesome project. Or full coverage awesome project. So I guess this is maybe depending on how you describe it a BAP when you see it. But yeah. So this is I Search for an Ancestor. This is by the Laurel Witch. So my goal is to finish her. It's just to finish her this year. It's been sitting in my whip pile for a long time, and I just never got around to working on her for whatever reasons, working on other things and whatnot. And so I was like, you know what, for March, which was Women's History Month, and I thought to myself, I'm not going to do this every month, but I thought to myself, you know what, because it is Women's History Month, and this resonates a lot with me, because the quote is, and I read it every time, but the quote is, I search for an ancestor who would have been considered a suffragette, harlot, witches, mystic, queens. And because of my genealogy and everything, women get lost in genealogy because of the way records are and things along that lines. And so that really resonates with me. And so I really wanted to work on it in March. Now, there was a goal to try to finish it. I don't know what I was thinking. When I started working on this, I was like around 40% done in this, and I'm currently at like 60% done. This thing is a beast of a dress, and so let me show you what I have done. so here we are. So what was already done coming into March is oh my goodness, y'all, in Houston, the pollen is everywhere. Oak is everywhere. And while the allergy shots have definitely done a lot to help, there's only so much you can do when the whole house and cars and everything around you is covered in yellow. But anyways, here it is. And so when I started, I basically had finished her whole torso up here, and I had started this little part of the dress right here. And so everything I have done is just that dress. I put in 3,999 stitches over 16 days. And again, I am only 60% done here. It's a beast of a dress. At the very bottom there, you can see that's the bottom border. I had actually taken the dress on one side all the way down, made a mistake, had to frog all that. But I did leave the stitches at the bottom indicating where the bottom is. So the dress is still got all of that to go. Now, I have stitched this 2/2 on 32 count Lugana. This is Haunted by Seraphim Hand-dyed Fibers. My goal still remains to finish this year. But I don't know how I'm actually going to work on it in the sense of like it was going to be a focus piece or not. It was my focus piece for March. It will not be my focus piece in April. I'm so sorry, y'all. This is so gross. I'm so sorry. But I think what I might do is maybe a thread a day, maybe a black thread, a white thread a day might be the way to kind of work on that. That doesn't put tons of stitches in, but you know, these little steps get you there, right? So maybe that's what I'll do. It's really hard. I used to do that. I used to do where I take my showers at night, where I would stitch on one project in the evening before I take my showers, and then usually we're up for another hour or two afterwards, and then like I stitch on a different project in the afterwards. And I haven't been doing that recently. I've been kind of focused on single pieces, but maybe that's the way to do it. Like do something before and then work on I Search for an Ancestor in after. That might be the way to go. Let's try that. Let's give that a try. And that's it. That's all I worked on. I'm really digging the focus stitching. We're now going into we've gone 3 months of that, going into April doing that. I'm really, really enjoying it. For those of you who know me, I'm very much progress stitching as opposed to process. And by having removed all of the challenges and just kind of focusing on what I really want to get done has, getting my whip pile smaller, which I know I started 2 pieces. My whip numbers are back to 21, but focusing on that, I feel good about that. Like I feel very accomplished, and maybe in this day and age, like feeling accomplished is good enough, as they say. So, but that's it. That's all of my stitching that I did for the month of March. I'm really excited about that. My plans going into April, I think, let's see. Let's try this thread a day or post shower stitching on I Search for an Ancestor. Let's see what I can do. If I get close to finishing, fantastic. If I don't, no worries. I'll continue doing something. It'll become a focus piece in another month. But in terms of goals, I'd like to finish Spring Garden Club this month if I can. I think that's doable. Maybe it'll be my focus stitching for the weekend or something. But otherwise, my focus stitching for April is going to be Cinderella Wishes Upon a Dream by MCG Textiles. That is my oldest whip. It is a BAP. My goal is to put in 5,000 stitches into that in April. Historically, in the past, I have participated in Monogamous May, and that's when I had really done a lot of focus stitching on Cinderella. But I'll be traveling in May for work, and Cinderella does not travel well. So because I know I'm going to be traveling, and I'm going to, and I can't participate really in Monogamous May, I'm going to go ahead and focus on Cinderella in April. I'm not doing a Monogamous April, but it's just going to be my focus piece where I'm going to focus on trying to get between 200 to 300 stitches on it every single day, which is about my average, and to see what I can do. But the goal is 5,000 stitches into Cinderella, which should actually get me pretty close to the finish line. I don't think I will finish, but it should get me pretty close. And if I get close, or if I think I know where I'm going to end up being around that mark, then maybe Cinderella continues to be focus piece in May. So we'll see. Fingers crossed. All right, I'm going to pause for a second. All right. Well, that's it, all my stitching content. And so for those of you who are going to kick out of here, thanks so much. I will see you next month. And for those of you who want to hang out for a little bit of a life update, here's my life update. So Staycation, let's talk about what happened. So we did a lot of music. So again, we went to the rodeo. So here's a rundown of my staycation. It was a very exciting week, and I'm going to go slightly out of order, but it was an exciting week. So we first started out with the Houston Livestock and Rodeo. And so it is a rodeo, and then there's usually about an hour-long concert at the end of it. And so we had 2 tickets to the rodeo the same week. And so first was Journey, and then we had Post Malone. And so Journey was hilarious. If you have not seen this, you should go and watch this on my Instagram. But you only get an hour at the rodeo shows, tops, right? And so what's really great about that is that if you're a fan of the band, it's always the greatest hits. It's always what they do. Like they may do one or two from like a current album or something like that, but otherwise, it's like, well, we only got an hour, so we're going to do all of our greatest hits. And Journey, we have seen them before at the rodeo, pretty much does that. They do some of their little lesser known stuff, and then all of a sudden they're like, bam, hit after hit after hit, right? It's a great show. So we were very excited to go and see Journey again because we had seen them before. And so Don't Stop Believing is being performed, and he's like, sing with us, and so the crowd starts singing. And I typically don't record, but I don't think people realize it. So when I started to record is when I realized pretty quickly that the power had gone out, that the stage power had gone out. And I think people thought it was part of the show, but I was like, oh no. I looked at my husband and I was like, the power just went out. And so I started recording. But what was pretty fantastic was that the whole audience was still singing Don't Stop Believing. I think they thought it was a continuation of the show. Like, oh, because you know how like in concerts, when the band's asking the audience to sing, they have those big lights and it comes on and the overhead lights come on. And I think that's what the audience thought was. And I was like, oh no, I think the power came out. And so sure enough, the power had gone out. And we saw someone running towards the stage with a fire hydrant. It turned out there was an electrical fire. They had to cancel the show. We were only 4 songs in. That was it. And Journey got canceled. It was very, very sad. We were like, oh no. They did offer to perform the next night, but of course the rodeo had another performer. And so there's no Journey for us this year. I wonder if they'll come back next year though. The rodeo is primarily country artists, but they usually try to bring at least one rock band, one spring break performer. There's always a Black Heritage performer that's specifically for Black Heritage Day, and so they have some other kind of like specifics, but typically it's country singers and artists. And so that was actually really funny. We're like, man, hope they fix it. By the next night, it was fine. Apparently they fixed the stage and everything. And so when we got to go on Tuesday, we got to see Post Malone. Now, I do not know Post Malone. Don't at me on that. I don't know Post Malone very well. And so for me, it was just coming to a show and listening to somebody that is popular, and my husband knew him a little bit more. My real true introduction, other than I know who he is because of pop culture, was when he performed with Nirvana on Saturday Night Live, and in the anticipation that there may be a post-Nirvana tour that may be coming. And that was really the only time I've ever heard him sing or perform or anything along that lines. It was fun. Like, it was a lot of fun. He's very self-deprecating. It was like, he kept saying, he was like, I only got one good song. Like, right. And he's like, type of thing. And so very nice, very, Southern hospitality kind of a persona. And I think that if you don't know him and you just kind of judge him based on his appearances, and I think that my husband told me that he knows that, like he does a lot of things to try to ease people because he knows that the face tattoos kind of is off-putting to people. I'm a person who grew up in heavy metal land, right? Right. So tattoos don't faze me wherever they're located. I don't think that it's any indication of anything about anybody, but it's understandable, I guess, as some people maybe. It's like, it's like, oh my goodness, a face tattoo. So, but it was fun. It was exciting. We also went to go see the Deftones. Great show. Really, really great show. And, I don't know what else I can say about it. It was visually stunning. If you are a fan of the Deftones and they're touring, it's a visually stunning show, like the visual effects and things along the lines. They had screens and everything, and well performed, and so absolutely great show. We ended our week with our 3-day heavy metal festival at Hell's Heroes here in Houston, and I had forgotten my bucket hat. So I like a bucket hat to cover my head in the sun. And so I was like, oh, drat. So we went hoping that we would be able to find a hat. But I wasn't sure they would have a bucket hat. Well, there was one vendor that had bucket hats. And so because I'm the magical anime stitcher, This is what I got. Look at this. I got a little Demon Slayer bucket hat. I told him that if he had a Retzko or a Sailor Moon one, that we would come back. He did not indicate that he thought he had these in his storage. He didn't. He said he only brought what he thought the fans of the festival would be interested in. And so, but look at that. Isn't that great? So, you know, the concert was fine. You know, we really, it's, I don't know music bands as well as my husband does. So for me, it really is, do I enjoy the music? And he normally doesn't take me to shows that he doesn't think I'll enjoy. He knows what my taste is as opposed to what his tastes are. And they do differ in some way. But there were really some fantastic bands. I really enjoyed it. There's some people I was like, I'm going to add that to my playlist. And but the funny stories that came out of this is that there is a curmudgeon. I don't know how else to describe him. And so the singer of the band is from the UK, and so he is British. And now I think it actually there's a trauma reason for this, which is that he doesn't like circle pits and crowd surfing, and because and he always talks about it, like, and so it's kind of a joke. Oh, he's a no fun band, right? Because he doesn't like it. But I think it's actually based on something. I think that many years ago, in one of their shows, someone got severely injured doing one of those things, either the circle pit or the crowd surfing. And so I think it's trauma informed. I think it's like he's a bit of a curmudgeon about it, but I think it's coming from a place of like, oh, I don't want people to get hurt doing this. So he kind of tries to dissuade people from doing it. But people do kind of like find him, like, I think he's hilarious. I think it's funny because I'm like, I love it. He's like your grumpy grandpa. But then I have a little video of him also on my Instagram talking about like being a little bit grumpy. And I'm talking about like, he goes, do you know who Doctor Who is? And it's like, of course we know who Doctor Who is. And so it was, but that was probably one of my favorite parts. The other thing that I thought was hilarious is that one of the headlining bands is named Saxon, and they are also from Britain. And then I'm like listening to the lyrics, and it's a song about William the Conqueror. I was like, what is up with heavy metal bands and wanting to sing about history? And then because I was like, wait, is this about William the Conqueror? Yes, it's about William the Conqueror. So I thought that was hilarious. And I was just like, well, they're one of my favorite bands now because I don't know if you know this, I studied English history when I was an undergrad, and I love English history. So that was kind of funny. The highlight for me personally in that whole week was Sailor Moon Live. So we got to go see Sailor Moon Live. I was worried that it would be too busy, but we went ahead and went. My husband got me as a gift for Valentine's Day VIP tickets. And so we were in the second row. And so we were right up front. There was no pictures or videos allowed during the show except for the very end. And that part was where they were performing the opening theme to the animation. And so that's been posted. And so that was really very exciting. I'm wearing the shirt I wore to the show. And the VIP experience was these good seats. You got a badge, you got a poster, and there was a high five experience where you got to high five the Sailor Scouts. It was so funny. No pictures of Alto. So it was just like, but we were one of the people who got a light rod. Let me turn it on. A little light rod. Can you see the colors on that? And so it's and so I was just like, but I kept calling it my moon stick, and I kept getting corrected by the vendors. You mean your light rod? I'm like, you mean my moon stick? And so so I was able to get this. I have no idea. This is the silliest purchase, right? Like, I'm a grown-ass woman, and I just bought a light stick. For what purpose? I do not know. But I'm going to tell you, the average age of the people in the show were definitely in their 30s and maybe early 40s. So there was a strong millennial crowd. And so I was probably one of the older people there. I was, but it's but it was solidly millennial. And they were also buying things and cosplaying and things like that. So I'm going to let my geek flag fly. And so it was so fun. I'm so glad we were able to do it. If you are a fan of Sailor Moon, it is the same story, but the way that they convey it and there's different songs and things. And there's some aspects to it that are a little bit different from the animation that I actually really like. So, but it was a lot of fun. So that was it. That was my, that was our staycation. My life update was our vacation. Hope you came along, enjoyed that. And, pretty much that's it. So I realize I don't have a joke. So pause while I go find one, please. All right. Also, I had to deal with my nose. You don't know this. It's just like a little pause. All right. Well, thanks so much, everyone, for hanging out with my stitching, staying around, hearing my tales of my staycation. No real plans in April. Just works, just life in general. So here we are. So in honor of it being in April, here is my joke for today. Why is everyone so tired on April 1st? Because they just finished a long 31-day march. Wherever you are, I hope you are having a magical, stitchy time, and I'll see you next month. Take care. Bye.